it's 6 p.m. I call the Manchester Community Schools Board of Trustees meeting to order. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All members are in attendance, along with Mr. France, Tanya, our business manager, and Superintendent Whelan, so we'll dispense with a roll call. Superintendent Whelan, do you have any additions or deletions for the agenda?
No, we do not.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Raymer?
Second.
Mr. Hensley, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, hearing of patrons, agenda items only. Okay, moving on. Oh, wait, let me back up. It's not really an agenda change, but it is. We're going to start doing resignations first and our hires second. So that actually was a change, but we can move forward with that. Presentation.
We don't have any presentations or recognitions.
Okay, financial report. Tanya?
All right, there we go. All right. It's not moving.
Is it working?
No. Okay. I'll let Randy
Okay, sorry.
move it forward, sorry. Okay. So our education fund revenues this month, we received $894,351.19, bringing us to 60% of our estimated revenue for the year. We can go ahead into the next slide, Randy. Our expenses for the month of July were $745,946.04. And the next slide will show, which is 59%, so we're tracking right where we should be on those two at the same time. Our balance in that fund is $1.4 million, 1,469,964.15 to be exact. The operations fund on the next slide. Again, this one we only receive our revenues from the state, or from the county, I'm sorry, not the state, the county in July and December. So this one is shows a little decrease in what the revenue coming in. So we received $60,000, and a big portion of that is our transfer from the education fund. So $60,490, and then our expenses were $378,000, leaving us negative. You can go ahead to the next slide, sorry. Expenses were $378,000, as you see here, which is 66%, which is close to where we should be for this year. A little high, but again, that's going to be reflected from our utilities and then the diesel price earlier this year. But that has to come back down, so hopefully that will continue to trend that way. Our balance for the operations fund for the year to date is currently negative $57,297. You can move to the next slide. Sorry.
Right. Did you use the right arrow?
Yeah, I did. So negative 57,000, but we will continue to track negative on this fund until we get our December distribution from the county. So on to the debt service fund. Traditionally, we do not have any expenses. We don't get any revenue other than, again, those county distributions. So we don't have any expenses except for June, and then there's one payment that actually is made in July. So I just went ahead to show this one to reflect that $29,000 payment that was came out yet in July, but there was no revenue. Again, so our debt service, the total fund balance reflects that we still have $1.1 million, which will help us make our debt payments in December. Then on to the rainy day fund. Again, that one we don't have any revenue in, so I just showed the expenses. As you'll recall, in June we purchased the property next door. One straggler bill came in, and so we had a $100 payment out of there as part of the approved purchase. Might have been a utility shut off, locate in services. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly what that $100 was for. But that was the straggler bill so far. We will have some additional expenses yet next month. I would assume we will receive the bill here in August once they've demoed that property. So that was also approved to come out of that fund. So that will be reflected once those bills are in. So the total balance remaining right now in rainy day is $277,000. Then on to school nutrition. There is revenue generated during summer from the reimbursements yet, so we received $130,000 for this month, but very basic on your revenue other than that reimbursement since it is the free summer program. But then on the expense side of it, we did have, go ahead, oh, thank you. On the expense side, we had $19,000, so it still reflects less in expenses than we would normally during every month of the school year. Leaving our balance for school nutrition, $295,000. And then finally, our curriculum materials. We did not have revenue during the summer months really with that, but we did have expenses as we are purchasing the new adoption. So we are currently negative $200,000, $223,000. We will begin collections here. Actually, they started taking payments the last week or so, so that'll be reflected starting here in August. And we will not receive our reimbursement for the assistance until February. That's when that's traditionally received.
Any questions, board?
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
I do have one that pertains to finances. And I don't know if it's even possible, but I'd just like to suggest that maybe we offer an RFQ to some of the oil suppliers for diesel. I don't know if they'd even be willing or not, but it could level off our.
Sure. I'm also looking at a joining consortium that education institutions are part of to get the pricing locked in. So.
Very good, thank you. Okay, moving on, approve the financial report, motion. Mr. Raymer, Brubaker, any questions, comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to consent items. Board, do the claims. Any questions on any of the claims for the month?
I'm gonna interject for 1 second, sorry.
Sure.
You do notice that there is a different format for your claims, for both payroll and, there probably was a combination because of our software switch. So there is a difference in your reports that you see.
Go ahead and
Hopefully,
put it up if you want.
can you pull up the claims? I'm not controlling it, so I need him to. But just so that the new format should be a lot more legible. It's no longer looking like a dot matrix printer. So hopefully it's gonna be a little more legible.
They're on the public site. So
Yes,
it doesn't.
they're on the, oh, you don't have that, okay. Okay, he doesn't have the access.
That's okay.
And I'll get those up for next time, but I just wanted to draw attention that you do have 2 different reports in your system, because one is the old and then the new one will be what you'll be seeing going forward. Sorry.
Okay,
Is
moving
that
up.
transition going pretty seamless?
Yes.
Awesome. Good.
Any comments or corrections on the minutes that were in your packet, board? Okay. We are to grants.
Yeah, so we have two grants that we want accepted tonight. The first one is the 3E grant. Both of these actually were from the state of Indiana, and the E stand for Engage, Explore, Experience. And so we're looking, and Sue Janegi is going to come in the next couple weeks or at the next meeting to kind of talk about all of the grants we recently received over the summer. But this one has to do with career pathways, but also looking at what business and industry is looking for and developing some micro credentials that we can look to develop K to 12. And so we have one of our former teachers, Tammy Allen, is going to assist in coordinating these efforts. And once again, Mrs. Janegi will be here to give more in-depth look into each one of these, as well as the other ones we received at an upcoming meeting. So,
Would you clarify for the board that that's the stipend for the?
yeah, in all of our grants, we have stipends built in that go to whether it be current employees, different outside contractors, things like that. And so none of the payments that come out of this for this project are going to come out of school funds. It's all built into the grant itself. So,
Any questions or comments on the grants? Okay, I'm gonna move on. I'm sorry, Mr. Hensley?
Glad we have them.
Yeah?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else you want to say about
Nope.
grants? Okay, moving to donations. Mr. Booker, would you read our donations, please?
We have $400 for MIS from Tri Kappa, $400 for MES, help with service provided to the community from Gamma Kappa Chapter, $400 to the Manchester Community Schools for special education from an anonymous donor, $400 for the high school volleyball program from Manchester Alive and the Second Fridays team, $600 for the high school football program from McKee Mortuary, $25 for the high school girls soccer program from Kendra Stetzel, $300 for the high school band program for band shirts from Metzger Landscaping and Design, $400 for the high school athletic program in memory of Loretta Klutz Owens from various donors, $415 for the high school boys soccer program in memory of Leanne Dietz from various donors, $100 to the high school after prom program from Gamma Kappa Chapter of Tri Kappa, $100 for the high school program art program from Gamma Kappa Chapter of Tri Kappa, $100 from the high school theater program from Gamma Kappa Chapter of Tri Kappa, $100 for Manchester Community Schools for the health and wellness program by Kappa 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 Inc. Total donation of $3,740. Thank you very much, everybody.
I would echo that. Thank you very much. They're very much appreciated. Any other board comments?
Dave, I did want to go back to minutes for a minute.
Okay.
I just want to thank Missy. You read through those minutes, and I don't know how you keep track of all that stuff, but kudos to you. So just wanted to say thank you to her. So.
We have no facility rentals, so at this time I would entertain a motion to approve 6.6, the consent agenda items.
So moved.
Mr. Booker, Mr. Hensley, second. Further comments, questions, discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Recommendations for approval. We're going to move to 7.2 and then we'll come back to 7.1. Superintendent Whelan, resignations.
Yeah, and the change for this, we've never had this many employees on one on one agenda since I've started here. And what I noticed is that some of the people we're looking to approve for employment The positions aren't even there until we accept the resignations, which was second on the list. So we're just flip-flopping those so we do it in the right order and accept the resignations to create those positions for employment. So Maddie Kearns as the JV volleyball coach, Thad Krager as a junior high football coach, Heidi Ream as a para at MIS, Stephen Camp as assistant tennis coach, Ruben Gonzalez as a custodian at MES, Deborah Tobias as a permanent sub at junior senior high school, Catherine Airgood, permanent sub at Manchester Intermediate, Jennifer Jenkins as a 6th grade teacher, Tia Parson as a paraprofessional at MES, and Madeline Morey as the color guard director for the junior senior high school. So those are the resignations.
I entertain a motion to approve the resignations. Mr. Brubaker,
I'll second.
Mr. Booker, any comments or questions?
I just want to thank all of them for their service to Manchester Community Schools.
Yeah, did you want to say anything about the subs that they're not really quitting? Or
Oh, yeah. So the permanent sub, basically, they're assigned to 4 days per week, and sometimes that's more than what they're ready to continue with, or they want some more flexibility in their day. So to my knowledge, they're still subbing for us. They're just not committed to that 4-day-a-week position. So.
You know, it sort of makes me think when I look at what we spend on salaries and wages and the reach of these people. You know, you look at the names and stuff. The schools, you know, we got a critical role in the community, and finding, you know, financial, physical responsibilities, you know, key. These people are leaving, and you know, and I know most of them have, you know, they have something else they want to do, but just to kind of reiterate the responsibilities.
all in favor of accepting the resignations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Employment, Superintendent Wheeler.
Okay. So we have Ashton Bradford Johnson as a junior high assistant cross-country coach, Bradley Buzzard as an assistant girls soccer coach as a volunteer, Lisa Conley as a high school JV volleyball assistant, Trisha Dolby as a junior high volleyball 7th grade coach, Andrea Lordy as a junior high 8th grade coach, Katie Cumberland, special education paraprofessional at the junior senior high school, Katie Phillips, also a special education paraprofessional for the junior senior high school, Lisa Conley as a para for MIS, Andrew Cagle as a junior high football assistant, Seth Gertie as a junior high football assistant, Corey Markstaller as the head custodian at Manchester Elementary, Stephanie Pinkerton as an assistant tennis coach, Kenzie Litton as a custodian at MES, Brooke Beck as a DLI paraprofessional at MES, Alex Brandewee as a 6th grade teacher, Scott McAlpine as a part-time cook, Brenda Eads as a part-time cook, Alma Vera Garcia as a night custodian at MES, Ella Quackenbush as a band color guard director, Shane Smith as the head baseball coach, Jennifer Haywood as a part-time cook, Dustin McDowell as the Squire Academy teacher, Hadley Shanup as a volunteer girls soccer coach, Heather Alexander as a paraprofessional for preschool and special education, Franny Slater as a kindergarten paraprofessional, Emily House as a permanent sub for Manchester Intermediate School, Chloe Selleck as the EL director for the corporation, and then also Haley Franklin as a permanent sub for junior senior high school.
I'd entertain a motion to approve the recommendations for employment. Mr. Raymer, Mr. Esposette. Any further comments, questions?
Mr. Brandewee is a current employee. Did he not have a position to resign?
Good catch.
It's an internal transfer, so I mean that kind of is how we.
Does Does that not leave a
It,
position
it
open?
does leave a vacancy, and so, you know, I think there's different thoughts on that. If it's an internal transfer, then it's a transfer and that vacates it, or we do a resignation. But, yeah, actually Missy and I had that conversation, so I've seen it done both ways. I mean, we can look at doing a resignation if we prefer to do it that, so.
So, did we hire somebody to
Yes.
do,
Mhm.
Squire
Squire
Academy?
Academy, yes. Mhm.
Are they at-
That's in this list, yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Dustin McDowell.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
So of these hired are these all replacements? Is there new positions?
There's no new positions there.
Okay. Just wanted to make that clear.
Yep. Yeah, let me double check and make sure, but I don't believe. Nope, they're all replacements.
You did very well getting through that list, by the way, Kyle.
Thank you. Well, I had the easy part. It was all the principals and directors that were doing all the hiring, so I just have to read them at the end, so.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Superintendent Whelan, 7.3 lunch charging and refund policy, second reading.
So we talked about this at the last meeting, and really, we just have to have a policy in place for certain circumstances. One being, what do we do with students' money once they graduate or leave us? And so we do have that written in the policy. You know, how do we refund it? How's the refund requested? Also, if a student does not have money in their account, you know, how that is handled as well for each grade level. And so that was all in that policy. I'll use this as another plug for the fact that the federal waiver for free and reduced lunch for all students, it was discontinued. And so we're back to the previous model where anybody who's wanting to receive free and reduced lunch must apply for it, and so they can go online. It is on our website. Otherwise, they do need to make sure that their students have an account balance. And so it's been a big change because it's been a couple years since we've needed to do that. And we have had to, you know, send out repeated messages. I had to be honest, I had to go figure out how to put money on my account and my daughter's account because it's been a little while. So I just encourage parents, you know, if you feel like you qualify for free and reduced lunch, please go on and apply for that. And then otherwise make sure your students' lunch accounts have balances, so.
Did I misunderstand you?
What's that?
Are you saying you're applying for free and reduced lunch?
No, I needed to have money in my account.
Oh, okay.
Or my
I'm sorry.
daughter's account, which I also use to pay for my food, so it's like,
I'm sorry.
I mean, no, I don't.
Do we know what our FRL is, the free reduced lunch percentage? And do we have a slush fund or something people contribute to for kids that?
We
We
do,
could.
I know the numbers of students that qualified. I don't have a percentage figured yet, because Becky's actually been out ill. So,
Okay.
she's been processing applications. I do have a number. I don't have the percentage. She just gave me the number today. But we do have an emergency fund. So, you know, different people have donated, but, we currently have a negative balance of $500. I mean, total, our negative lunch accounts from the start of school. So it is kind of important that people start putting money in, and she goes through the count of the students, even from home. She's been working on doing this, checking to see who's qualifying for direct certify. You know, our kindergartners aren't necessarily in the system yet because they haven't, some of them aren't, the families aren't used to having to apply. So there's some process that she goes through, but she's been working at that as best she can while she's out ill, and we're running those numbers as much as we can.
So, and my other comment on this policy is, I would hope, like, I know like friendly reminders in the lunch line and stuff like that, but I'd hope we'd use discretion with that.
We actually do, I'm sorry, Kyle.
Yeah, go ahead.
We send more of we send a call, an automated call home, so we don't necessarily say, hey, you're low on lunch. We let that call or a letter go to the parents, so that kids aren't faced with that. And
Okay,
they
I
don't
thought
hear
there
it
was
from
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought there was a reference in here to saying something in lunch line or something like that, so.
We do not do, there may, I will have to double check that, but that is not what we wanna do, because we don't want them,
Yeah,
kids
that's-
don't know, so but we do an automated call, through our, Power School can send, or, what's the,
We send them, it's automatic when it gets to a certain point. Parent Square
Thank you.
automatically sends that out. At the high school, as they're going through the line, the cashier will let the student know, hey, your account's getting a little bit low, you got $3 or $5 or whatever. They'll let them know how much is in their account. But
Because
just
a lot
keep
of,
'em-
yeah, a lot of times at the high school level, they're the ones putting the money in the account,
Yeah.
and sometimes they just need that.
they'll
The
give
parent
them a-
did their
they'll give them a
part,
little
and then,
reminder.
Yeah, I
yeah,
got it.
so.
elementary, we're we're cashless at all of them, so
Yeah.
they aren't actually giving them money at the cashier, or where they check out. Cashier's kind of a loose term with that, but yes, they aren't giving them money, so they're not saying, hey, you're low on lunch, other than at the high school where they're saying, you're getting low, just because they get a la carte items.
Okay, I just, little comment.
Yes.
Okay, I would accept a motion to approve the lunch charging and refund policy on the second reading as presented.
So moved.
Mr. Booker? Mr. Brubaker, second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Opposed? 7-0. Okay, next one is 7.4 Manchester Youth Football use of Manchester Senior High School grounds.
Yeah, so this is like a facility rental, however, it's not just a specific date or time that they're using it, because they do use it for practices as well, and then throughout the season for their games. And so we've been allowing them to use our grounds for quite a few years now, and so we're just looking to continue with that same structure.
Okay, I don't normally do this, but I'm gonna make the motion to approve this with the caveat that they fill out the facility use form and make sure that all the insurances and stuff according to the policy are presented, because that's not in here. Do I have a second for that motion? Mr. Hensley? Any other further discussion or question?
I wanted to just make a comment to the folks that run this youth league. I saw they've got kind of a free entry for all kids now, which is pretty cool. Also saw that Warsaw Community's got a donor that basically pays for the sports cards for all the kids at Warsaw Community, which is pretty cool too, so.
Yeah, I think it's a great program too, but like I said, you know, we need to follow through with our policy. So, any other questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries 7-0 with the exception. Superintendent Whelan, addition, 7.5, addition of special ed para for the RISE classroom.
Yeah, so every year we just evaluate the students that we have and what supports they need. And this year we are requesting that we add a para position for our RISE classroom to be able to provide all the accommodations. And this position will be evaluated each year to see if it needs to continue.
Do I have a motion to support the recommendation? Mr. Brubaker?
Second.
Mr. Booker, second. Discussion, questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 7-0. Program code and object code reallocations, I believe this is Tanya.
Yes. I believe I sent you a memo regarding this. It's a common thing, especially the state has changed some of our specifically our object codes. Program codes didn't change as much, but in looking at our classifications we've been using, my example is the program code for learning disability instead of using, say, mild disability, which also ties to the teacher licensure and some of our reimbursement for, not reimbursement, but our special ed grant money. So I would like the permission, because these have been traditionally budgeted to what is really the incorrect category. I would like your permission to go ahead and transfer these so that we have the budgeted amounts in the correct program code or object code. Another example, last year the state changed the object codes from 110 for certified staff to 110 was a teacher in the classroom 50% or more of their day. Now a certified staff such as Mr. Whelan, administrator, now has a 121 other certified staff code. So the budget was worked using the previous codes, but he's being charged to the appropriate code, so there's no money in that budget category. So I need your permission to move those dollars from the incorrect budgeted code to the correct one, so that at the end of the year everything is kosher. These will not move from fund to fund. They are only program or object code changes.
And this is for the state auditors, right?
State auditors, and then also as I build our budget, they're changing object codes again next year, so we'll probably have to do it again. They gave us more notice this time.
You could be in medical.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve 7.6 as recommended.
So moved.
Mr. Hensley and Mr. Raymer? Yep. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We didn't have discussion, but I do want to make sure everybody notices the example she used is calling me an other. I'm other, just so you know.
We caught it.
I wonder why you had a smirk on your face when you were looking around.
What category do I fall under? Other.
We all
Thank
know
you.
that.
Well,
But it goes back to a 110 next year.
well, and actually, I looked at that, and then he was talking about free and reduced lunch, so I don't know. Okay, 7.7, MCS reentry plan for the 2022-23 school year. Superintendent Whelan.
So it should be up on the screen here. If you followed what the most recent guidance has been, there's a lot of rollbacks on what the recommendations have been, including social distancing is no longer something that the CDC is pushing. And so every 6 months, the state requires us to redo this plan through the end of this school year. And so it was pretty close to time for us to evaluate it again. But we cut out some of the things that are no longer encouraged, but also there's a lot of things that are just best practice we found through this process that we've just made as part of our everyday routines. And so even though this is a much shorter version than our previous plans, there's a lot of things that are now just included in part of our day-to-day operations instead of we have to have a special plan for it. So this is pretty much it. So
Motion to approve 7.7 MCS reentry plan for the 22-23 school year. Mr. Raymer? Mr. Brubaker, second. Discussion? Comments?
Thank you, Kyle.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you,
That's-
Kyle. Thank you, board members that had discussions.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, 7-0.
Can this go on the website tomorrow by chance?
yes, it can.
I'll get it up there.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you send it to me and I'll put it up tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Expansion of nursing staff, Superintendent Whelan.
Okay, so we did have one of our nurses recently resigned. We had an assistant nursing position that serviced both MES and MIS. They resigned in the summer, and so we reposted the position, and we started to evaluate our health services district-wide. And I did reach out to some of the neighboring districts to figure out, kind of where we stood, because I was always, thought that we were short-staffed compared to what we should be. We do have, 3 buildings plus 1. I consider these 1 building, but, we have basically 1.5 staff. So, to better be able to provide services for our students, I'm looking at, or I'm asking that we change that part-time person into a full-time person. The other thing we have not had in the past is a sub nurse that when MA is gone or when the part-time person was gone, to hire a person in for that. There are some different times where we are short-staffed for whatever reason. So I was looking at this person being up to a 10-hour-a-week type position, and then also be able to serve as a sub for that. So that was after looking at what other districts were doing and also the need that we had. I felt that this was a good time with hiring somebody on. This would be a good time to reevaluate that. So.
Kyle, are there guidelines to, if Mrs. Hire is out, have you hired a sub in the past?
We have not.
You have not.
We've relied on some of the medical people locally to help service that. So that's one of those pieces that I would absolutely like to look at. I mean, if there's parts of this we need to do more thorough search, that's okay. But being able to do a sub position, we have not had that in the past. So when she's gone, she's just gone.
So we have a vacant position
That's a
that's
part-time
part-time
position.
right now that you can actually hire to help out, right?
Yes, correct.
And then you're asking for an additional, I'd like to see a little more documentation on, the amount of travel that MA's doing, and what the needs in the different buildings are. Kyle and I had a conversation. One of the people that's interested in the part-time job is a retired RN, so she might be able to, depending on what her hours are, availability, she might be able to help also fill in for MA. Because right now we have to reach out to one of the
Or
clinics.
let me clarify that. Can I clarify what you said? You're wanting to take the part-time position and make it a full-time position.
Correct.
That is it. And then possibly get a substitute position as well.
Robert, hold on a minute. Let me make a motion first before we,
Okay, I'm sorry.
somebody second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So you're looking at, we have 1 full-time position. You're looking to make the half-time or part-time position full-time, and then also hire another part-time for a sub.
So the current
Is that
part-time
correct?
position we have is up to 30 hours a week. That's what that one is. So we're basically extending that so that
10 hours plus
that person
benefits.
is here every day for the duration of the time that students are in the building. And then the other part of that request, and these can be 2 different things, I mean, if that's what is determined, but the other part of that is then have someone that is available up to 10 hours a week that would also be able to act as a sub for MA or the other full-time person in their absence. Because in the past, we haven't had that sub option for the part-time person or for our head nurse.
That part-time position, there might be weeks where they don't come in at all.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just part-time, whatever, yeah.
And that's what I put, based on the last discussion we had with putting some sort of cap on there, that's where I came up with 10 hours is the max that they would have for a week, just to give a boundary there.
And the qualifications becomes another, that's why I was kind of leaning towards a little more documentation. I'm not a medical professional, but CNAs can do up to this. RNs and LPNs can do up to this, so depending on what the need is, how many diabetic students do we have, special needs, you know, whatever that is, I'd just like to see a little more documentation. You know, because we're talking about going from 1 right now to 2.5. So
No, we have 1 and 3/4 right now.
Yeah,
how do we have 1 and 3? 'Cause the other position's open.
it's,
Well, they just opened though.
Right.
but that's already created.
Right.
That 30-hour week is already created.
Right.
Basically, this one would increase it by about 20 work, at most 20 work hours, plus allow us for a sub, so.
Kyle, if we make our existing part-time position full-time, will that position still be obviously doing some traveling between buildings as
Yes.
needed?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. Because that's what MA does now.
Yep,
Still.
correct. One of the other pieces to this is that because of our staffing, you know, when we have classes go on field trips, we don't send a nurse with them, and that's a very common thing that schools do. And we've been very fortunate that we've had chaperones and things like that, parent volunteers who are willing to go, who are also medically trained. But you know, when we send a class someplace, that is a very common thing that districts do, is send the nurse with them, and we haven't had those resources in the past. And not to mention, I mean, we thankfully, you know, our head nurse has incredible attendance, but, you know, in that absence, we haven't had anybody. And, you know, there's been conferences, I know that, you know, it's kind of been fortunate lately, they've been mostly virtual, but, you know, for years, she wasn't able to attend conferences that were pretty common just because we didn't have someone put in that place. So.
We had the last one that we had that left, that was the CNA that we had, is that
I
correct?
believe, I can't be sure that was her licensure, but, that's, yeah, so, and we had advertised this one, CNA or QMA, as kind of that requirement, and then preferred, and this was when it was part-time, we had like medic, and I forget what the other one was, because the more qualifications they have,
So are we
obviously.
gonna
the
pay
better.
based upon qualifications, or are we just setting a set pay rate?
It would need to be based on qualifications, for that, so.
And so one of the concerns that I have is, from my understanding, we couldn't always keep that person occupied all the time in that healthcare provider area. And that is why, from my understanding, that person's no longer with us. And so, why do we assume that we can not only replace, but also increase and keep that occupied at a higher pay rate?
And part of that question is a personnel issue, which I can't discuss, so I just wanna, I mean, I can't really address that.
I don't want it addressed
Okay.
here. I want it, you see, you want us to increase this, but I know for a fact that that individual was not occupied in that healthcare field all the time, so it's gonna be hard sell when you want us to increase by more than that one position. I'm not saying there's not a need, but I'm saying it's a hard sell to say, oh, that person, we need to replace that person and increase it when that person was not busy all the time. That's all I'm saying, just making a comment.
Well, what is the ballpark at, so we're gonna increase full-time position of a nurse. So how does this interact with any type of mental health assistance? Do these people, like, would this person have any social skills? social worker skills, or? I mean,
That-
are we, what are we, with this position, what are we not doing? What's the opportunity cost?
Well, it's completely new and it's not a huge addition cost-wise, if I'm understanding that. Like, it's not like we're taking away something else by not doing this. It's similar to, you know, we added, you know, our SRO position out at MIS, because we felt like that was what we needed out there. And so, I don't know that I'm saying that this is not what we're having because we're adding this. I don't think
Well,
it's.
my concern is when you guys say it's pay on qualification, nursing's at a shortage right now, and so you've got Parkview given, you know, I won't name names, but, you know, there's hospitals giving pretty good bonuses for nurses, so I'm sort of wondering what this is gonna, I mean, the need aside, kind of what it's gonna cost in the long run, and it's a full position, and we added, is the ESL person, is that an administrative position?
No.
No? Okay, so we're, you know, again, I'm just kind of disapproval on hire.
I mean, the second position, the intent is not to have it be like an RN though, right?
No.
I mean, you don't want to spend that much.
No.
Well, if it's a retired RN looking for part-time work,
But it's a full-time
They
position
could-
that he's
they
asking
could-
for.
eliminate the travel between the buildings, because, like I said, I'm not a professional, and there's different things. I think we just need some more information as a board to approve this, you know, what's the qualifications, is it, you know, on the full-time and the part-time, and what's the benefits gonna cost, what's the payroll gonna cost, and is it gonna save some of our costs right now? Because I know for a fact, you know, I mean, even during COVID, God bless her, MA Hire was running between the buildings multiple times a day. So if we can eliminate some of that, and to Mike's point, I just feel like maybe, I don't know if we're gonna have another meeting here in August or the one in September, maybe you could put a package together and bring it back with a little more.
Mr. Whelan, do you guys happen to have a snapshot or a small snapshot of what the additional cost would be approximate based upon?
And part of that does, like, it is a difficult position to really put a price tag on, because we don't know
Qualifications.
who is, yeah,
Right.
and so, you know, it's very much unlike the other positions that we have, because there's always, here's what the qualification is. You know, obviously, if it's someone who's more qualified, we're going to either want to pay them more because they can provide more services for our kids, or we'll need to pay them more so that they will be here. So, you know, obviously, I'm not looking to, you know, break the bank on this, but I also know that we have, you know, 1,400 students at, you know, 3 different buildings, and I want to make sure that we're providing the coverage for those students. So, you know, if there's specific things, because, like, you know, I guess if you're wanting to, you know, table this and,
Well, is there like a job description, or like, do we have a job description that you're gonna post for it? And
for the part-time one, we did. And so, and part of it, I mean, what the school nurse does is basically everything. And you know, part of that I can ask our secretaries too, because when the school nurse isn't there, that's who's serving as the school nurse. So, you know, I think we want people who are, you know, more qualified to help our kids. I know if I had a student with some pretty significant, you know, medical needs, I would want someone other than a secretary who's assisting them for that. And so, you know, I'm not saying that we're not meeting those needs right now, but I will say that we're understaffed compared to all the districts that I've talked to.
Well, and I mean, my concern is that at the moment, we don't even have that part-time person because they're already gone. So I'm a little concerned about delaying this. We're in session right now. I mean, we have school going on right now, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Tommy Baldwin's the principal at MIS is at the podium.
Hello. Just to speak anecdotally from what it's like in the schools with just MA, I just want to echo the sentiment that MA does a phenomenal job, and MA is everywhere, it seems like all at once. But when you talk about opportunity costs, the opportunity cost of not having that person is not so much in the times where there maybe is some times of slowness in the clinic, but it's in the situation where at the end of the school day I have a kid at recess who falls and cuts his head open and has a huge gash, and now I've got a secretary and a treasurer and myself trying to triage that while we get parents on the phone and get MA on the phone and see where she's at and get over there and try to deal with that situation. The opportunity cost is at the beginning of the day when we're taking attendance calls and we're taking lunch money and a student comes in off the bus and is sick, that now they have to leave their duties and go deal with the student who's sick because we don't have somebody in the clinic. Last year, we had a student that had ongoing health concerns. They seemed to proliferate in the afternoon, and with the hours that our part-time position was working, she was leaving at the end of the day, and a lot of times there was no medical professional in the building, so it fell to myself and it fell to the office assistants and it fell to the teachers who are not trained for that to try to handle those very severe medical situations with kids. So I understand the awesome responsibility that you guys have and that's entrusted to you in order to make sound fiscal decisions for the district, but the opportunity cost is our kids are put in situations where there are people that are not qualified and not trained to handle some of these situations that are handling them. And realistically, even with us putting our best foot forward, it potentially puts us in situations where we are, giving medical care and we're not qualified to do so. And I would think that that's a huge liability for the district when we're doing that as opposed to somebody who is trained and is qualified. Yeah, I'm CPR and first aid, and everybody is as part of their license, but that's pretty basic. In this particular situation that I referenced, that student ended up having to have stitches, and it was a pretty severe laceration. So we can triage it, but when the parent comes in and said, well, where's the nurse? I don't have a great answer for that, and it puts me in a situation where I don't have a great answer, and I don't like to be in that situation.
And you're right, there is a medical need, there's also a mental health need as far as I'm concerned. And since you brought it up 10 times, what I'm talking about with opportunity cost is if we hire this person later on down the road, are you gonna come to me, I think they can hear me, Dave, are you gonna come to me and riff a teacher or something like that? That's kind of what I'm talking about when I say opportunity cost. When we're spending money in one place, where aren't we going to spend it? And when we bring on a full-time person, just like running plants and divisions, I take that personally. Those people that work for me and those people that work at this school corporation, we're responsible for. So we can't bring people on and then get rid of them. I think Brian makes a valid point in the fact that the gal quit because she was bored. That's what we're questioning.
And that's certainly fair. And I'm not saying the points are not valid, and I tried to reiterate that. I just, from a school's perspective, from somebody that's in the building, both with our current, with MA and with the person that left the current position, yeah, there were times where, she wasn't as highly utilized. But there were times where she was on her feet busy going back and forth and responding to legitimate medical, concerns. But I think in any industry, whether it's education or whether it's plants and operations, you're going to have ebbs and flows of when you're busier and when you're not busy. And so maybe she felt like in her experience, she wasn't being as highly utilized as she would have liked to have been compared to how she was maybe working in a facility like, Peabody or Timbercrest. But the need was there because, having somebody for those adverse moments, that's as much as she's there for as, putting a Band-Aid on a student or, taking a temperature. We need somebody that can do the things that I can do or my secretary can do.
I don't know if this is a question for you or Superintendent Whelan. How long has this position been open?
Middle of summer.
Okay.
Can I make a counter motion?
I think we need to resolve this one first, or?
That's probably the best practice, but you can't have two motions.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the full-time position and stop at that for now and see how it goes. And if we need to add another part-time, we can later. But at this time, just take that 30-hour and go to a full-time position so that we have 2 full-time nurses.
Point of order, Mr. France. Does Mr. Hensley need to clarify what his motion was? We started talking about it and I didn't have a motion or a second.
My
on the
motion was to approve, but I'll pull that motion, so.
Okay.
I'll second Robert's.
Okay, further discussion. I think this needs to be, I'll just go ahead and make it a motion that we table it. I need more information. We don't have what the qualifications are gonna be. We don't have what the salary's gonna be, what the benefits are gonna be. I just have a problem hiring a full-time person without having that information.
And just to clarify a little bit, I mean, the salary is not approved until the person is approved, and so.
I mean, I don't know that that's, I mean, he could give you a max maybe, but I mean, we're not gonna know that until we have the person. So, I mean,
Like I said, we haven't even said, do we want an RN, do we want another CNA? I mean, this is just,
Well, that's my point, is that
there's a
if
whole.
a person's not busy with one thing, then you try to get somebody with multiple skills. Now, I understand that position's like a prayer, trying to
yeah,
find
you're gonna
somebody
get
with
what you can
different
get.
We're
skills
gonna
as a
jump
nurse.
to
But,
top.
but you've got a first and you've got a second, so it,
Okay, do I have a second for my motion to table it? Do we have more information or not?
Don't we have to vote on the,
No, you can do one, then you do the other. Correct.
Approving one, though, will essentially
We'll kill the other one.
kill the other one.
Yep. Okay, well, my motion dies for lack of a second. Any other discussion on Mr. Bucher's?
I do have one question, and I don't know if this can be added. Once again, we still don't have I don't have the ability to hire a sub when we don't have a nurse. So is that something that you guys would consider adding? For one, I can add it, like, I have the authority to employ a sub if that position's created without getting board approval for it, but we don't currently even have that position. So if we're able to find somebody to sub until we hire that position, if there is a position.
So that would be in the absence of one of those other two is gone?
Correct. It's, yeah, we don't have, right now I don't have the authority to do that.
So you're saying, do I have the ability to hire a part-time until the full-time is filled?
It's a sub by day. Like
Sub by-
that's all it would be.
Sub by day.
No, he's saying if we've got 2 full-time, one of them calls in sick, he can get a sub for that day.
Oh, so
But
we
it-
wouldn't have 3 people here in one
No,
day?
but it would also allow me, like right now, where we only have one person, it would allow me to hire someone to sub until we have the second person approved. So it's, I mean, we've had that in when we have had a vacancy in another position. You know, a lot of times it's that person we're hiring who fills in as that sub, but at least it allows us to put someone in that position. So right now, we only have one until we have that part-time person or full-time person approved. And so, you know, regardless of whether we add a full-time, if we leave it at a part-time, I would like the ability to hire a sub as one of the options we have.
let me ask you this, Kyle.
Mhm.
How do you hire subs for teachers?
Because I have the authority to do that. And
What's
there's
the
a,
difference in this?
and there's
What's
a,
the difference in this situation? I'm curious.
Yeah.
What gives you the authority to hire a sub for a teacher that doesn't give you the authority to hire a sub for the nurse?
because the rates and everything and that ability has been established. So even
Gotcha.
like
Thank you.
custodians, we have sub pay for a custodian
Okay.
position, and so
Thank
I
you.
can do that,
Gotcha.
so.
So you're asking to have that motion modified?
I would-
So I'm gonna make another motion. We just
Okay.
go back to the original.
Well, let's get Roberts done first if you want to make one. I don't think these
You can
need to
have-
be conjoined, do you think?
I got one more question I forgot. Like, so if I were to ask, and it may seem senseless, but is it easier to hire full-time than part-time? Why wouldn't you want 2 part-time people? Is that the deal for more flexibility?
It is, and it tends to give you more consistency as well when it's a full-time person. I'm not opposed, to be honest with you, like, I know it's hard to find people to fill this position to begin with, especially ones that, I mean, it's a unique role. You're working with students, whoever comes in, you know, sometimes you're playing parent, sometimes you're playing, you know, nurse. It's a challenging position and not one that's necessarily a lot of people are applying for. So, you know, I do think when you start talking about a full-time position, it does open more opportunities for people that's what they're looking for. And also it provides more consistency and, you know, it is someone that MA can probably give some additional responsibilities because they're filling that full-time instead of part-time.
I would like to retract my motion. And second,
He hasn't made one.
Yours has been,
mine's been seconded.
Nobody else has made one.
yeah, I haven't made one.
Oh, can I amend my motion?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to make amend my motion to the original request of a full-time and then a fill-in part-time position,
Up to 10 hours.
up to 10 hours,
So what he put in is,
what he put in,
okay.
yeah.
Who
I'll
seconded
second.
your motion?
I'll second.
Well, we need to go back to the person that seconded the original motion.
Esposito.
Huh?
Esposito.
Okay.
His
Do you
first one.
support the amended motion, Rick?
I'm thinking,
Okay.
Raju, you sound like you wanted a second.
I mean, you're welcome to, but I will if you don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll second Robert's amended motion.
Okay, so,
Okay, we have a motion and it's been seconded to follow the superintendent's recommendation put in the packet. Any other further discussion?
and we will see the financials before everything's done,
Those are
correct?
always a part of
Okay.
when you're hiring in, so,
Very good.
yep.
Well, that's more of a courtesy, right?
No, it's a you mean, it has to be a part of the recommendation to include, but as soon as it gets ironed out, I'll share that with you before as the courtesy. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other comments or questions? Discussion?
Well, let's vote before somebody changes something.
Okay. I'll start. I'm gonna vote no. And the reason I'm gonna vote no is because there's no job description, there's no salary, there's just too many pieces missing. I know we need another nurse or at least a part-time, but I can't support this as presented. So I vote no. Mr. Hensley?
No.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Esposito?
Yeah, I'm gonna vote yes, but I do hear and respect what you're saying, Dave.
Mr. Brubaker?
I'm not going to cast a vote.
You're going to abstain?
I'm going to abstain.
Mr. Booker?
Yes,
Mr. Raymer?
I will vote yes, but I also want to state that I am very suspicious of the
Okay, we have a 4-3, motion passes.
It's three,
In four,
three.
I'm sorry,
4-2-1.
4-2-1.
and I would ask the board members just, send me emails about what those pieces are that you want me to make sure that I include when I'm sending that, making that final approval. So, and I do appreciate it. One of the biggest things was giving me the right to or ability to hire a sub. That's something that I think has been long overdue.
That's why I voted
And,
yes.
yeah, and a lot of people probably didn't even know that that's not something that we were able
Yeah.
to do in the past, so, move forward with that.
Heartland update, gonna be real brief. We have a meeting tomorrow night. I had asked for some direction from this board regarding the MOU. At our last meeting, we sent it to our attorney to have it, reviewed. It hadn't previously been done. The attorney referred to it as a hot mess. I think I can live with it now. I still don't understand a memo of understanding. All it says is if we don't agree, we're gonna argue, so, versus a contract. The good news is we received a 3E grant, just like we did here. Pretty sure, yeah, the grant was approved, and we are going to seek out a full-time employee to work with the micro credentials and reaching out into the community and the business world and establishing those relationships to, just because the kid's in machining doesn't necessarily mean he wants to be a machinist his whole life. Maybe he wants to go on somewhere else and just, you know, and design machines, or, but it's the same 3E grant, and Sue Janegi will be here at one of the next meetings, and she can explain it a lot better than I can. So with that, we will move, unless anybody has any questions.
Do you happen to know what the grant was down there, the amount?
Do you remember? I think it was more than what we got here. I would say it was close to 6 figures.
Yeah, I think it was close to 100.
Yeah, yes, it was. We had asked for 98 and they gave us 100. So, yeah. Thank you. Mr. Hensley, legislative update.
So special session, just, Congresswoman Orlesk, you know, just to say thanks to her for the service that she gave to, you know, our region and things, and the tragedy to all 4 families, you know, on that piece. There are some legislative updates on backgrounds and such, so we'll have to, Mark, I don't know if you're up on that, looking at our current policies, but we'll have to have a policy meeting and probably go through those and look, but, yeah, just, so it'll be kind of interesting what comes up in this session to see. Any word out of you, Kyle, as far as any concerns? I haven't really seen much out of the ISBA or anyone else.
It's been pretty quiet for a little while, which I'm okay with, so, yeah.
That's it.
Superintendent comments.
First of all, I just want to say, hey, we've got off to a great start to the school year. Want to welcome all of our new employees and also our new students. Across the board, and the principals will probably reiterate this, this has been a very smooth start to the school year, and a very positive one. So I've gotten a lot of good feedback from parents. I even had some teenagers talking to me today. Last year they tried to ignore me, I think. I was like stranger danger type of thing. So it's been great. So I'm really excited to get started. Athletics has gotten started up. I do want to say that, you know, I appreciate all the conversation we had tonight regarding the increased medical supports that we have. Physical responsibility is incredibly important. These conversations do need to happen, and, you know, I appreciate all of that because everybody's coming from the right place. It's like we're trying to support our kids, but also make sure that we're able to, you know, continue to support all the other programming that we had. So thank you very much for, doing that, and also, the other things that we've added are really important. So I appreciate it.
You have some enrollment numbers?
Not yet. We're still working on that. There's some students that we're sorting out, but hopefully by the end of this week we have, this is what our
Are we
enrollment
close
is.
to last year? Or?
We're going to be a little bit shy, but part of that was the size of our graduating class versus the sizes of our incoming classes, and that's been a trend for about 6 years. We have grades 8 to 12 are closer to that 120 average, and the grades 7 down are all around that 100 average. So, unless we can boost those numbers at the lower levels, it'll probably be about a decrease of 20 from the graduating class versus the incoming class. So,
School board comments?
I'd like to thank Todd and your team for all the work you've been doing with this software changeover. I'm sure it's a big undertaking, and I'm glad it's been going as smoothly as at least you portray it to be going. So thank you for that.
I've been through several, thank you. I've been through several conversions, different places, and a school district as well, and this one was the best one so far. So
Great.
I would say Control is, I know it was a big investment, but it made my reports a lot easier. Payroll, the first payroll we ran, I don't want to take too much time, sorry folks. First payroll we ran on the new software was done in a third of the time.
I'd like to reiterate my thanks, and I'm really thankful that I didn't have to have part of it.
they invited me to the 7 days of training, and I just happened to be busy for every single one of those. So
I did, while we were talking, I shared the 2 reports that you have in your packet. If you want to put them up, I can now, to share them with Randy.
Yeah,
Just real quick, I don't
yeah,
want to, I know everyone wants to get home.
Yeah, we're still
But
fairly
to compare
early.
the 2, how much more readability, and one of the great benefits, every screen I go into, I can export straight my report. In fact, Fatima ran a report last week for the principals of all the ECA contracts right to a spreadsheet. And instead of having to, we couldn't do it before. If you'll page, that's just you can page to the next page. This is our old system. As you can see, how unreadable the print is. And then if you'll share the next one. It's just so much, it's so much more legible. And it gives you more information, and this can go straight into an Excel report, so there's no, before I had to actually read the little dot matrix number and type it into my Excel sheet. This I can copy, paste, I can export it, it's much better.
Yes, it is. I can actually look at it on my Chromebook where
Sure.
At home
Yeah,
before
I
I
thought
had
you
to put it on my big screen and blow it up in order to.
That's why I
to
wanted
read
to
it.
draw your attention tonight with having the switch. So from now on, your reports will be in our new format.
That's lean,
It
right?
is.
Operational efficiency. I do have one last comment, if I could. I'm looking at my tax bill. Percent difference, county, plus 14.01, township, 3.79, school district, negative 0.64. But I paid more, right? And so when I'm talking about fiscal responsibility, we aim to keep, what goes up comes down, so I really see a dangerous time right now for community schools, public schools, so, we have to stay frugal, and just to stay on that. Vote no, and that kind of hurts me a little bit, but just on the information side, so I'm glad we can all, look at things and have those discussions and do that. I think this, that's what we get. We're all here because of the taxpayers. So again, every dime we expenditure, it's not really a spend, right? It's an investment, just to illustrate that point. So thank you.
Any other school board comments? Okay, Superintendent Whelan is not advised whether we need to have another meeting here in August. It's kind of a wait and see. I guess you'll let us know if something crops up and we need to do one. It would be on the 4th Tuesday as normal. Other than that, there's documents to sign.
nope, that's it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, second.
Second, third?
Yep. Don't run off, there's documents to sign.
It's okay.
Still shorter than Peru.
I would say.
Three times. This is going
lot
to be
shorter,
in our software.
I didn't get home till 10 last
You'll
night.
print your signature on the teacher contracts.
Uh,
So you will sign one.
print here or sign it?
Client name, yeah, you print theirs and then you'll sign. Actually,